I can understand why he did. He doesn't want to talk about Michigan, 0-2. He doesn't want to talk about the big game coming up against Penn State and against Michigan again.
Audio from Outkick. Good afternoon. Great to be with you here on a Wednesday. Ready to talk some Michigan football with you. That was Lou Holtz talking about Ryan Day over the weekend. Holtz had something today. Day came back. Holtz came back over the top. That's where we're at midweek as Michigan gets ready for Nebraska. And, it's too good not to talk about. Michigan fans, I didn't think we would be here on a Wednesday after the first Big Ten game and seeing Ohio State win a game and actually going back and saying, woo, Ohio State. But that's where it is at. We are going to talk about the Buckeyes and everything that the Ohio State football team showed against Notre Dame and their coach Ryan Day and the things that he has had to say. Also, Michigan State, they are looking for a new head coach at some point. Maybe today, assembling the list. I put together a list of my own. I'll present that to you to see what you think. And we'll look ahead to Saturday afternoon in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's Michigan taking on Nebraska. Number 2, Michigan, getting ready to do it and hit the road for the first time. It's going to be a 3:35 kickoff. If you check those game notes, they tell you when that kickoff is going to be. Sometimes it's like 12:10. Other times, like last week on the Big Ten Network, it was 12:01. And I know one reporter that was just a little bit late and missed that first touchdown because he thought that it was going to be, like a 12:10 kickoff. I guess, he was building in that 10 minutes. It didn't happen. That guy was experienced. But so 3:35. So you get a couple minutes where you don't have to be right there at 3:30 in front of the TV. Game is going to be on Fox. You've got the play-by-play guy, Jason Benetti. I don't know. Brock Heward, the old southpaw from Washington, and one of my favorites down on the sideline, Allison Williams, providing the news and notes from down on the field. And Michigan right now is a 17-point favorite. And so you say, well, what do you think about this game? It's first road game. I mean, these are the things that come to mind for me. Michigan is they've done pretty well. And the Bowling Green game, it's not like you would want to be in a 14-6 game and turn the ball over 4 times like they did against the Falcons. But, after you do it, can it be a reality check, a stark reminder of how things can just go sideways quickly? J.J. McCarthy, like others, have mentioned that it could be a blessing in disguise. I saw J.J. on Monday, and that's what he said about the game. And, you just think about McCarthy and you put a rocket ship next to him and you're thinking he's taking off to the moon, and then, whoa. And then, okay, then he came back last week and he looked pretty good. I don't know how many people are talking about, McCarthy and the dual threat that he is. Harbaugh has mentioned it over the last couple of years, just how fast McCarthy is. And we're talking about, 4.4, 40 speed for McCarthy. I mean, this really is what we're talking about with J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, he could fire it, and I know people get really nervous when he tucks it. That's. I don't think you're ever going to be able to not be nervous when your franchise is out there running the ball, especially when he gets tackled. But he's a hell of a runner. He's a very serious threat when it comes down to taking off with the ball. And now that we're into the Big Ten, and at different times, you're going to see J.J. McCarthy showing off those wheels. And I know you loved it, how he was ducking out of bounds. You really like it when he's throwing touchdowns. And then when he runs and then picks up the first down and just steps out of bounds and nobody touches him, you're like, oh, yeah, that's what I like. So, sliding down, not having any of that contact. But you got a real dual threat QB in McCarthy. I just think about, you say, well, what do you think about Nebraska? I think Michigan should win the game. Do I think about 2 years ago in Lincoln? Sure. There were some people that were a little bit, I don't know, not like the last 2 games. You can understand a little bit of it with Bowling Green because of just how the game went, but it also spilled in, to the Big Ten opener. People were like, this isn't a championship team, and, proclaiming this team, doesn't have this team doesn't have that. I don't know. The last 2 Big Ten openers, Michigan was in a 1-score game in the fourth quarter, and they won this past Saturday, 31-7. Everything's not equal and everything else. I'm here to tell you that Michigan's doing just fine. Michigan is doing all right. Not everything is perfect. Donovan Edwards isn't sprinting up and down the field left and right and getting into the end zone. I know it's not the Ohio State defense. We're going to get to them, and Michigan's not winning all their games 100, doing nothing. And the offensive line isn't just grabbing people and twisting them around and breaking them in half. And there's some that are a little bit worried about that. I mean, what are you going to do? Just sit back and be like, everything's fine? No, you take each game and then each moment and try to say exactly where it's at. I think Michigan is in a good spot. They have played well. Certainly they can do better, but all systems are go. I feel very good about Michigan as they head in for their first road game. Some other things that I think about, and I see the feedback. I'm going to get to some of that. I always like to take your feedback and see where the people are at. Nebraska, I watched their quarterback today, Heinrich Haarberg. It sounds like like Jim Harbaugh, if AI said, twist around Harbaugh and make him an imposter, you'd come up with, okay, how about Heinrich Haarberg? How about Heinrich Haarberg? Heinrich Haarberg has started the last 2 games for Nebraska, and I watched 5 minutes of him running the ball. He's a bigger QB. He reminded me, as I watched him, of the Saints tight end / quarterback / running back, Taysom Hill. That's what I think you're going to see for the Cornhuskers. But he has, I see that I didn't spell team correctly. He has run for a team high 272 yards since he's been in there. He's taken off on some long runs for Nebraska. Jeff Sims, who was the transfer from Georgia Tech, he started the first 2 games for Nebraska, but he injured his ankle late against Colorado, and he has been iffy. Now, Haarberg is banged up as well, but he's been a full go in practice, and I think you can expect to see Haarberg in there coming up for Nebraska against Michigan on Saturday. So that's what I saw with the QBs as I was looking at them. The numbers, I mean, this is something like I told you that I wait till halfway through the season at least before I start taking all the statistics about this is the best statistical team in the country. But you are working at least with 4 games and 1 conference game. But the Cornhuskers, if you do check the stats, they have the number 1 rush defense in the country, yielding just 46.2 yards per game. That's impressive through 4 games. Also, the Cornhuskers are number 1 in the Power 5 in rushing offense, running for an average of over 234 yards per game. So you're saying, whoa, wait a second. What does this mean? Are they really that good? Well, you check the schedule that they've played in the teams and look at it, which I have done, and you're thinking about it. And you see that it was a 13-10 game against Minnesota. That was up in Minneapolis against the Gophers. I watched that game. It wasn't very exciting. There wasn't a lot there, but Minnesota was not able to run the ball. Now, Colorado is a lot of things. They're not really a running team. They're let's light you up in the air. That's what Colorado did to Nebraska is they fell to 0-2. They went out to Boulder. They only scored 14 points. No, they didn't give up a lot on the ground, but the Buffaloes ran them, tuned them up for 36 points. And then you've got a MAC team and a La Tech team that didn't do a whole lot on the ground. And that's how you get the statistics. And, meanwhile, Nebraska, they're not really good throwing the football, so they run it. And so they have a nice running quarterback, whoever it's going to be. Harburg is to the expected QB, the Taysom Hill-like QB. And then, we'll see how Michigan is able to do. I think they're going to be able to do pretty well. They just did see a similar type quarterback and when they took on Rutgers. So this is not something that they're going to be shocked. My early prediction is 30-14. I'm sorry that's not covering the 17 points, but I do have Michigan winning by 16, 30-14. That's my early thought on a prediction on the game. That's where I sit. That's what I'm looking at, how this is going down. Let's see what the people are thinking. And we start out with the coach, Antoine, who says he does not think this game will be tough, much like Rutgers. The only difference is their quarterback is probably more of a runner and probably geared more towards a running quarterback option style. He continues on saying all Michigan has to do is stay disciplined on the edges, do their job, and stay in the rushing lanes. The Nebraska quarterbacks, none of the Nebraska quarterbacks are good at passing. There's a point to there, and he's saying get those outside rushers free. Pretend like you're going after the running back at the last minute, hit the quarterback. It's sort of like bluffing the quarterback to keep the ball. I think they'll be highlighting, and I do think that working against Rutgers last week, having that familiarity with that type of style of offense and quarterback, it's I don't know about playing right into Michigan's hands, but they're familiar with it, which is a good thing. Scott says he thinks Nebraska will give Michigan a tough, physical football game. I'll buy that. Here's Mark with a couple points. Mark was telling us all about YouTube TV, I don't know, a week or two ago, and then Harbaugh was maybe Mark actually is Jim Harbaugh. They're kind of on the same page. Multi-view, recording all Mark, as I was standing there by Jim Harbaugh, I don't know, I was 5 feet away from him on Monday, and he started talking about YouTube TV. I thought, there's Mark. That's what Mark was telling me. Mark and Jim Harbaugh. Mark says that Nebraska might have the best defense in the Big Ten. How they held Minnesota, then Colorado. He thinks they're very tough, and Jim will be very conservative, 1-point win style. Whoa! Mark asking a question as what I think about all of the going for it Notre Dame did against Ohio State and such valuable points in a low-scoring contest. I think Jim Harbaugh kicks it on 4th and short against Nebraska unless late and trailing. Well, when you get to this point afterwards and I say things like, and I'm going to say it, I think Jim Harbaugh would have gone for it, just like Notre Dame did. You kind of sound stupid. Like, would you do something that Notre Dame did that wasn't effective? And rather than, and eschewing the, guaranteed 3 points. I would have. I mean, it was close enough. And I do think, not that this matters totally, I really do believe, not just in a gut, but when the analytics they have in every situation out there, it'll tell you, whether you should kick the field goal or whether you should go for it. And, sometimes it's like the slimmest of margins. You're like, well, you've got like a 0.06% chance better, if you go for 2 here or if you go for it. And when it's that close, knowing where, and of course, time and score is always going to be, where you, but also, how you feel about the play that you'll be running, how you feel about the defense that you're going against, those things factor in. It was like It was like the Chargers. They were playing the Vikings, and the Chargers from their own 25 on a 4th and 1 in a, what was it, a 4-point game, they decided to go for it. Crazy, right? Like, what's this coach doing? This is not what the card says. You're not supposed, but they just ran it up the middle. That was just, that's their play. Then you got Keenan Allen, you got Herbert. Justin Herbert is like setting a record for completion percentage in the game and everything else. And, I like the idea rolling them out there. Give them a nice, easy one with, Keenan Allen, but give them also the opportunity to run it. And let's have, maybe somebody else. Give you like 3 different options there. Running it up the middle when you hadn't run it all game long, that was ridiculous. So, it's a long answer, Mark. I would have, I think Harbaugh would have gone for it. Not many people are giving Ohio State, credit. I mean, they won the game, but on a couple of those different stops, there was one, 2 I can think of, man, where they came up and the defender just made a great play. Hartman was going over on that left side looking for him. That's the one you're talking about taking the points. I think J.J. McCarthy's able to lower his shoulder, and he's going to be able to get another 6 inches, and he's going to be able to get that first down. But, I didn't have any problem with that. Just, great play by the Ohio State DB that was able to make that play there. But no, I think Harbaugh would probably go for it in that situation myself. I think the card says go for it. I would have gone for it being at home, but are you running, your skinny little quarterback who's more of a passer there, just kind of have him saunter, probably, I don't know. You got a nice tailback, but man, it was razor close. So that's what I'm saying. You say you think Harbaugh would have kicked it. And I'm saying I think he would have gone for it. Old 22 talking about being a tough team. And he's talking about Crying Ryan. We will get to Crying Ryan coming up. I like it. 22, what you're talking about. 22, he has been busy with work. Well, you got to take time and say, look, 2:00 on definitely Monday and Wednesday and Friday, I'm going to get in. 22 is telling everyone to keep in mind that La State and Colorado have 0 running game. Michigan will run just fine on Nebraska. Yeah, those are just the stats. I'm not over here saying, oh, no way, man, this run defense, watch out. Look, Penn State had the number 1 rush defense last year, and that was mid-October. And Donovan Edwards ran for 173 yards, and Blake Corum ran for 166. Michigan ran for over 400 yards and damn near 8 yards per carry against the number 1 defense in the country. So, yeah, it's not like I'm sitting back just saying Michigan with the running clock. I think the days of running for 400 yards, maybe even 300, are probably gone. But I think Michigan is going to be able to run the football. It's just that's what the stats say here. People will be talking about it. Michael's saying he guesses Tuck is done. MSU has officially announced that they fired him. Yeah, I thought that I saw that they were going to make it official today. Scott says that Ernest Hausman will be ready for his homecoming game. He has been a great addition. I agree. I like Hausman. Hausman is physically, when you look at, his dimension, just looking at him, you say, wow, man, this guy is put together, and then he can run, and he's a good tackler. Good tackler, he can run, and he is built like a brick house. So, yeah, Hausman. I'm there. Is there anybody in the world that will have a worse day today than Mel Tucker? He's in the process of losing over $80 million. That's some serious cash. Yeah, it's going to be tough to take, but I've already think that, most of that pill has been swallowed by Tuck, thinking about how much money he's lost. On the good side, and I don't think this is going to be any consolation to Tuck, he's probably already made, $10, $15 million. which is, $10 or $15 million than most of us. And I don't think he's going to lose all of that 80. How much he, settles for in the end, maybe 10, 20, 30. I don't know. I know a lot of people are like, no way. Yes, there is a way they still might be able to get 20 or 30 million out of it. I know maybe his wife will take half, all this, but sure. When you have 80 million and the only thing you have to do, I say only thing, it's just not breach that contract. Yeah, that's a bad day. I could give you a lot of examples of people that are having worse days, though, of Mel Tucker. So I hear where you're at, though. There we go. The feedback from the man formerly on here as Andres says Michigan just has to show up to win every game on the slate, with the exception of Penn State and Ohio State. People are worried, but if this is Michigan bad, I'm not complaining. You know what? I don't know about show up to win. I mean, I guess you can make a case for showing up to win is, just coming out and playing. But yeah, like Michigan's are they going to be a double-digit favorite? They are against Nebraska. Will they be at Minnesota? Yeah. Who do they have after that? Indiana at home? Yeah. Double-digit favorite? Sure. I think they'll win that. At Michigan State, rivalry, tricky, that kind of stuff. They should kill Michigan State. Purdue, kill them. So, yeah, you're right, Andres. They have an easy road. If we're sitting here and really being honest. The non-conference, easy breezy. So far, this thing, you never know. But, man, you're right. If you were saying all off season that their three hardest games were going to be at Penn State, at Maryland, and Ohio State, I agreed with you. That's what I thought. You got a lot of tuck. Scott wondering if Jerry D hit the transfer portal. Jerry Diorio, who joined Scar for the last week or two. No, we decided that, Jerry has so much wisdom to give. I said, Jerry, we were talking to, how about Jerry comes on with a little film review on Friday? So we'll see Jerry on Friday. So no, he did not hit the transfer portal. We just, we ran a new play, and, you'll see Jerry on Friday. 22's talking about Michigan covering for the first time this year. All right. Brian's looking for Donovan to break out in this game. Moore said he had his best practice this week. Yeah, well, I thought that he was going to break out against Bowling Green. So I can't every week saying, this is the week for Dono. This is the week for Dono. But, you bringing to the table that he had his best practice, that can help. Mark, I have not gone out and gotten YouTube TV to record all the games. I mean, I still have to cancel Peacock so it doesn't roll over to next month. That's my biggest thing that I'm with right now. Let's see here. We got a lot coming through. People are in here. Gary's talking about Crying and Ryan. Let's get to Crying Ryan. It is on it. Let's just recap for those who missed all of this. First of all, I do want to tell you, Michigan talk all day, all night on the Den, the topics, everything that you can think of, any play, any statistics, anything at all about Michigan football, from the last game, from the upcoming game, from the rest of the schedule, to where they're at this year, to historically, the coaches, recruiting, the transfer portal. That's what's going on over at the Maize and Blue Review. Join up by going to michigan.rivals.com. Give us a shot. You're a Michigan fan. I guarantee that you'll like it and you'll end up staying around. So check it out. We do want to see you over there. All right, here it is. So Lou Holtz, 86-year-old Lou Holtz, was on ESPN on Saturday, and he said he was talking about Crying Ryan, that he's lost to Alabama and
Michigan twice, and everybody beats them. does so because they're more physical than Ohio State.
There he is. So Holtz coming out with the opinion that everybody who beats Ohio State does so because they're more physical than Ohio State. Now, if he's been watching this podcast, Antoine, for 2 years, has been coming on here and saying that Michigan is more physical than Ohio State, and he's been predicting Michigan victories. And at first, like I have said, I thought Antoine's just a big fan. But then he was right. And then he came back again and said it again. And then he was right again. So he's been right, 2 times. And by the way, he's saying it again, Antoine, but about, Michigan being the more physical team. And if you ask Michigan fans what the reason has been over the last 2 years that Michigan has beat Ohio State, I think everyone will say something close to they're tougher or they're more physical or, the offensive line was more physical or the defensive line was more, the combination. But it's nice and neat to say that Michigan's been the tougher team. It's accurate. It's short and sweet. And it's correct. So, Holtz saying this, he was absolutely correct about it. Let's hear it one more time.
Michigan twice, and everybody that beats them does so because they're more physical than Ohio State.
That's right. And so day after the game, it's funny. I watched the entire game, and then it's over, and I turn it off. And I did not see Ryan Day on the field after Ohio State's win over Notre Dame. But, and this is why he is called Crying Ryan, because he needs a Kleenex. He is crying.
Like, I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now. What he said about our team, I cannot believe. This is a tough team right here. We're proud to be from Ohio, and it's always been Ohio against the world, and it'll continue to be Ohio against the world.
I can't do it. There are great sound bites. I watch a lot of I do, watch the game a lot of times. If it's Michigan, I'm going to watch post games. I'm going to see the coach out on the field. And a lot of times I catch those. I didn't see this one. Boy, I wish I would have, because I would have been up laughing into the night on Saturday night. I'd watched 12 hours of football. It was over. I went to bed. But then to wake up and hear the crier about Ohio State, who has been an elite football program for, 20 years, to play the us against the world. What it sounds like is that Ryan Day, he hears the critics. This is not just Lou Holtz. He hears his first year that he lost, 2 years ago when he lost to Michigan. He, promised that they were going to be tougher and more physical. And that's what it was. And then it didn't happen. And so now everybody's saying it again. And then, here's Holtz coming over the top on him. And he goes to the crying situation. We got to hear it one more time, don't we?
Like, I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now. What he said about our team, I cannot believe. This is a tough team right here. We're proud to be from Ohio. It's always been Ohio against the world, and it'll continue to be Ohio against the world.
I'll take Lou Holtz in a fight over Ryan Day. That guy is a big baby. Well, but what it says, you can take shots at him. I'm taking some shots at him. I mean, that was funny. That was a meltdown. That was a coach who needed a pacifier after the game. He was a big baby there, going after an 86-year-old coach. You know what? If I was an Ohio State fan, what I would like them to say, I'd like them to say, hey, we came in here, we beat a tough team, and we're going to celebrate this victory. That's what I wanted to hear. Not that. Where's an 86-year-old man? He sounds like he's feeling the pressure. It sounds like he knows that he doesn't have a physical team. And that he it has for the last 2 years, and he can't figure it out because, he likes turning all the, he's just like a spread guy. Let's throw it around. When you're not tough, it's tough. When you get called, what? It's tough to get called out accurately, and that you can just cry about it. And that's what's going on there. Look, for at least 15 years, Ohio State dominated on the field against Michigan. And what happened is that Michigan fans, Michigan broadcasters, Michigan coaches, they felt it. And Ohio State was in Michigan's heads. The tables have turned right now. And even though it's just 2 years, it feels like it's going to be 3. And a good indication about Michigan being in Ohio State's head is listening to Crying Ryan there. That sounded that does not sound like a coach who is focused and has a handle on everything. That sounds like a dude that is scrambling, who knows that he got out of South Bend, that he was fortunate to get out there with a victory. And it almost works perfect because, I wanted Ohio State to lose that game. Everybody wanted Ohio. Everybody. So the part about where Ohio circling the wagons, maybe he had a point there because everybody was rooting against him. But now that it's done, and you had the emotional outburst of an attack on an 86-year-old man like Day brought, and how he was crying about it, it's all good because they do, I hope they do go undefeated. I don't know if they will, but I don't care. But I say I don't care, and yet I do hope that they'll be undefeated there because we know all the things that can happen when the extra benefits about Ohio State being undefeated there. But I feel better about Michigan being able to beat Ohio State, even though Michigan hasn't played anyone, than I did before, and Ohio State won the game. I didn't think that was going to be the case. That's why live sporting events and how things unfold, it's so beautiful. We could have talked about that for a million years, but I did not predict that we were going to have an outburst like that after the game, and that Michigan, you would be able to feel better about their situation because of their coach, who let you into his mindset about how he's really feeling the pressure. He is feeling it. Wait till he loses 3 years in a row. Woo, man, he's not going to be able to handle it. Ohio State fans are not going to be able to handle it. And I don't think Ohio State as a university is going to be able to handle it. Craziness. Okay. Let's that's not done. We have more. Okay. Let's get to it. One more on Crying Ryan. Lou Holtz was on with Dan Dockich. And Lou Holtz was not done with Ryan Day after the game.
And I can understand why he did. He doesn't want to talk about Michigan, 0-2. He doesn't want to talk about the big game coming up against Penn State and against Michigan again. Hey.
Lou Holtz. Ryan Day didn't want to talk anything about, the toughness of his team. He didn't want to talk about Michigan. He didn't want to talk about Penn State. Lou Holtz. Who knew that, it was going to be Lou Holtz coming out and being able to do that. Pretty amazing going through all of it. All right. Let's take some feedback. We do have some stuff on Michigan State that we wanted to get to. AJ saying playing Nebraska will be like playing Rutgers all over again. I agree. 22 says Nebraska is worse than 21 and Michigan is way better. I'm sorry, Michigan is better than they were in 21. Well, Nebraska is worse than last year and Michigan is better than they were last year. Let me think. I'll buy it with Nebraska. The transition. I do think with the new coach. I don't know, but I'm not. I don't know with these quarterbacks last year. I'm not sure that they're worse yet. Maybe. I just said I would buy it, but now I don't think I am buying it. Am I buying that Michigan is better than they were last year? I don't know about that either. I think they could be. They're on their way. I think you're hoping that, but I'm not sure about that. It sounds nice. Nebraska's worse than last year, and Michigan's better than last year. What was last year's score? Last year's score was 34-3. No, the odds makers don't think the same thing as you do. Account 22. I think this is a little bit strong, but hey, people like strong stuff. Yeah, taking shots at Cade. Cade laid an egg in Happy Valley. I thought that he would be able to generate something, and I don't know, I'm sorry about Iowa. I mean, Kirk Ferentz, a lot of times I tell people, and I've said it here about situations where there's people charging nepotism. And I've said, no, I didn't think there was with Al Avila and then his son when he was playing. There were a lot of people that thought that. There'd been some Jim Harbaugh, Jay Harbaugh, that kind of stuff. But there is, I think if I was in, it's weird to say, if I was in Iowa City, they would be like, your son is a terrible offensive coordinator, and he should have been gone. And Kirk Ferentz should be gone. And he's kept his son in there, and it's been to the detriment of the football program. Shame on Kirk Ferentz and Brian Ferentz, and shame on the Hawkeyes, and shame on Cade. Now that's it. What else can you say about it? Mark says they were missing both backs and a tight end. That's 80% of their offense. Yeah, well, I mean, you get blanked. I'm not sitting around talking about what's going on. The German Heinrich Harburg. Yeah, I mean, it more sounds like the Michigan hockey team's getting ready to go. They're going to have to really solve this this goaltender, Heinrich Harburg. Heinrich Harburg has got a deadly shot. He's a right winger, and he's got a real low wrister. No, he's the QB. I don't know. Moose wanted to know how it felt to be Ryan Day, so he chewed out his elderly neighbor. There it is. Harburg can run, but he can't pass. He can run, but he can't hide at GC. Is Jeff Sims related to Phil Sims? I'm going to say no. I've seen both of them. They don't look anything alike. Chris Sims is Phil Sims's son. Michigan will shut the German down. I'm not making fun of it. And they were both at the game, weren't they? Franz and Hans, those guys were out there at the game this past one. Okay, let's take a couple more on the feedback here. Harburg is a gamer, big tough guy. Michigan will need to play the quarterback run well. Yep, I think so. I think you're there. I'm with you. Cornhusker fans are nuts. I've never been to Lincoln, Nebraska, but what is there to do besides go to a Nebraska game? So they'll be into it. And think about the 20th century and how Nebraska used to be an elite football program. Hey, growing up, Michigan. I liked Michigan. I went to Eastern Side of Michigan, and I was I'm an Eastern fan. That's it. But there was a long time that if you asked me who was the greatest football player that I've ever seen when I was really young, I mean, I always said Anthony Carter, but I said Herschel Walker. I think maybe when I was really young. And then I thought Tommy Frazier. Tommy Frazier was a great college football. Then, I had Tebow was better. And then actually Johnny Football, was one of the greatest. Funny how sometimes, the greatest college players, it just didn't turn out that they're end up being great. What's 14? I forgot. 14. I'm being generous to give Nebraska 14. Yeah, I mean, that was what happened. That's just how I came up with it. So there it is. AOKO thinks it's going to be a linebacker party against the Cornhuskers. Could be. All of that's true. MS, M Stillwagon. He's always looking forward to watching the show. Gives me something to watch while I'm working. I like to hear that. I don't think crappy Colorado, is that what they are now? That they got run off the field? I get it. How about Thomas? Michigan 23, Nebraska 9, low-scoring game. Michigan's O is so-so this year. Need a third wide receiver to step up consistently. Yeah, I don't agree with much of this. I don't think that Michigan is so-so. In terms of possessions in points per possession, this year in college football, Michigan's number one. Michigan, in terms of needing a third wide receiver, their third wide receiver is their tight end, and Colston Loveland. People that talk about, well, Michigan's going to need they really need that depth. Did you not watch last game? Samaj Morgan stepped up. You don't need, what you need? You need a go-to guy that can take the top off the defense and a number one. They've got Roman Wilson. Check. They need a possession guy and a big wide receiver that can go over the middle and complement the speedy Roman Wilson. They got Kojo. Check. They need a game breaker in the middle of the field who can, run those seams and stems and just be an outstanding Colston Loveland. Check. I mean, how many, Thomas, wide receivers do you want? And Morgan came in and looked pretty good. They don't need a third wide receiver to step up consistently. That is false. But I'll get it to you. A lot of people say that. Now, look, you probably are watching other podcasts of dudes that are really good with their on YouTube. They got great all kinds of different things that they're showing. The screens look great. They got all this. And then they say things like Michigan needs a third wide receiver. And then people grab onto it. Or maybe they're local radio guys. I don't know. But those guys, when you hear them, type in that they don't know what they're talking about. And tell them I sent you. Maybe they know what they're talking about a lot of other things. But when it comes down to that, it's just not true. Oh, but I know people jump onto that. TCU gave Michigan a valuable lesson how to play against a 3-3-5. GC says 4% post-game win probability, account 22. Okay, let's take one more in here, and it comes in from this back to Thomas O. JJ is a good quarterback, but not elite. Come on, guys, not even a top 5 quarterback in the country. Wide receivers need to step up. Same thing about the wide receivers. The wide receivers have stepped up, so that is not accurate. Now, JJ had a stinker against BG, so I evaluate it and I put it into the mix. Does it mean so you say JJ's good? I would put him in between, so if he didn't have the BG game, I would say that I do think he's elite, and I do think that he is a top 5 quarterback in the country. I still do think he's a top 5 quarterback in the country. Penix has played better, obviously. Caleb Williams, for sure, you put him in there. How many other quarterbacks? I know the media and the NFL scouts love Drake May. You know who's won a lot more games, big games, than Drake May? JJ has. What's the biggest game? South Carolina that Drake May has won? That guy doesn't win any big games. I'll take JJ in front of him. But JJ is a good quarterback, but had a stinker. But I still think that, if you don't want to call him elite right now, I get it because of the BG game, but he has that kind of talent and he bounced back. So, Thomas, you're 0 for 2 today. I am doubting Thomas, but I appreciate your thoughts. Andres says this OSU Notre Dame game is like Michigan's 10-3 game versus Iowa a few years ago. Both teams playing similar styles, but neither team looked like they really wanted to win the game. Not looking great for OSU. I agree about that. Okay, so Mel Tucker supposed to be fired officially today. So Michigan State, they are going to be looking for a new head coach. I don't think what they have with their interim right now and the way guys are going to leave, that I just can't see him keeping. Who is it? Barnett, who's the interim head coach. Nothing against him. I just think he's going to be in a tough spot for the rest of the year. Hey, he's a Michigan State guy, along with Coach D on the sideline. They're going to take the bullets, and Spartan fans will, I don't know about them. It's going to be pretty messy for them. It's going to be tough for them, but they get paid. That's what you could say nice. But they get paid, and they're, Spartans. So they'll do a tough job. Somebody's got to do it. But I put together my own list of what I thought are reasonable expectations for candidates for Michigan State. The media has changed over the years. Like, if you're a super, uber Michigan fan and you're watching this and you say, you know what, I want a podcast, and maybe you do a podcast, or I want to be a writer, or I want to be on the radio, they say, what do I need to do? And the answer is not a whole lot. You just need to start a podcast. You just need to start, because it doesn't matter. My point here is if you're a super fan or not. It used to be like, hey, let's try to separate being a fan and, calling things like they are. It's not really about that anymore. People like what you have found, what everybody has found is that people like super fans talking about their teams, and people don't really care for objectivity all that much. It's just about, let's honk that horn like Bob Ufer, and let's just see maize and blue spots, and let's just love Michigan. And plenty of people in these spaces like this, it's worked for them. I mean, they've gone on and had successful careers. So good for them. I say all this because there's somebody else who's a super fan. This is like with the downside. Here's what a super fan said about Michigan State's coaching search. And this is one of the drawbacks of putting a super fan in the media. Rico Beard, big Michigan State guy. Rico Beard is a friend of mine. So I am, you could say, blasting him here, but I'm really laughing at his opinion. Those fans will say the craziest things. Like, if Michigan was looking for a head coach, you would go for the very top guy that you possibly could, and you'd say, that's who they're targeting. Michigan fans do it when they do have openings. They go for the very top guy. And so this is what, that's kind of what fans do. They say the craziest things. So Rico Beard, there's no bigger Michigan State super fan than Rico. Rico said that Marcus Freeman, making the case that Marcus Freeman would be the best candidate for Michigan State. Well, look, Nick Saban, I can make a case that he would be a great candidate because he's a great coach. Maybe a little bit too long in the tooth, so who would you want after Nick Saban? I don't know. You're going to make a case for who? Notre Dame, Michigan State being able to get Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame is like, I don't even think like the biggest. I think there's a club of one with Rico talking about Freeman. It's just funny, and it's what fans do. Let's go after completely unreasonable, something that is not going to happen. Let's do it. Let's see if it's going to happen. So there's 0% chance that Marcus Freeman is going to leave Notre Dame for Michigan State. Now, look, he just lost. He hasn't won any big games either. hey, if Michigan State plays their cards right, or wrong, the way things are working, could Freeman be fired in 2-3 years? And then this next Michigan State head coach, if he's a disaster, maybe Freeman ultimately could be in East Lansing, but they're not going to right now be able to get him as their next head coach. There's 0% chance of that. When he gets fired after a couple years in South Bend and this next head coach flames out at Michigan State, well, then there might be a marriage there. And so then maybe Rico's just getting in front of this story. Maybe I should say, hey, good job, Rico. Maybe in a couple of years, we'll revisit this. You'll be right. But no, Freeman is not getting the job. Here are the candidates that I think that are reasonable for Michigan State. These are the calls that I would be making if they asked me. Number one, I would go to the Duke coach, Mike Elko. He's won the ACC last year. He is coming in, and he's just got that up arrow next to him. Looks like he could be an outstanding college football coach at Duke. Obviously, Michigan State, football-wise, is it at a basketball school? That could work. I see this as a step up, Michigan State from Duke. That would be a nice hire for Michigan State, Elko. I also think the head coach at Kansas, same thing. It's the basketball, which is weird. That usually doesn't matter. But, Michigan State being the basketball school that they are, Leipold from Kansas, 6 Division II titles. I also think the Kansas head coach would be a nice fit at Michigan State. These are 2 coaches with big-time up arrows next to them. I would be looking at both of the Duke head coach and Kansas head coach. PJ Fleck. We all know his background at Western Michigan. Is Michigan State a step up from Minnesota? You could argue no. I'll argue yes, but just by a little bit. But Fleck, he might feel like this is he's can get it more, get it done recruiting maybe a little bit more in Michigan State. I don't know. But I think PJ Fleck is a good coach. I would call him. What's interesting is when Michigan, it looked like they had their opening, or going to have an opening for 48 hours last year or the year before, when it looked like Harbaugh was leaving for Minnesota. Fleck and David Shaw were on my list of guys to call. Now, a lot of times when a coach isn't undefeated or, not coming off a championship season, it doesn't give you a lot of momentum, and people are kind of like, maybe Fleck a couple of years ago. And the same thing with David Shaw. It didn't work out at Stanford, but I would interview David Shaw. David Shaw, everything that he stands for, I've listened to him for years on NFL coverage. When you look at his background and his ties to the state of Michigan, when you look at his pro background, David Shaw, would be someone. It would be on the short list of me to bring in if I was Michigan State. Now, this next name is a coach who has been around the block. It is not like some spring chicken, Tony Annese at Ferris State, but he is having great success at Ferris State. 2 Division II titles. Sometimes it comes down to with coaches, maybe he just missed his window, because I think he's up, in his low 60s now. And you could say it might be a little bit too old for him to be it was, he had his opportunities. So age could be a factor there. There's other things, but I don't know, Annese. Like, could there be something about politics or religion and how he feels about those things that's preventing a team? Because he checks the boxes in terms of what you're looking for with a successful head coach. So I don't really know the reasons. It's complete speculation by me, but there's something there. It's age, religion, politics for Annese, why he hasn't got his shot. But I'll put just a little star next to him, because I think that to me it's a wild card. Why not? I mean, this guy, what is preventing him? Let's hear what it is. And then Sean Lewis won the MAC at Kent State. He's 37 years old, and he's now out running the controls for Dion in Colorado. Somebody's hiring this guy. He's already proven that he could do it at the MAC level, and now he's putting up goofy good numbers, crooked numbers as the OC at Colorado. Midwest ties, Sean Lewis. Remember the name. So those are the names that I would go for. I know there's a lot of other people you could say, hey, what about this guy? What about that guy? This is who you would hire. You could probably come up with another list of 10 and shoot down all 10 of my guys. That's kind of the way it's done. Everybody has their opinion. There's mine. Mark, maybe Rico Beard will put up my list and he'll start laughing at me. And he'll say, look at my bank account. I don't know what he'll say. Somebody could say something like that. A lot of people that have mentioned Chris Creighton from Eastern Michigan, who I think is a fine coach. He's done a nice job, been even better. It's tough to win at Eastern Michigan. But the thing about Creighton is he hasn't really won anything. I mean, he's been at 500. He's taken, EMU to a couple of bowl games, but he hasn't won the MAC. I just don't think his success, his record, I just think it falls a little bit short of Michigan State considering him. That's what I think. I know a lot of other people are like, his name got kicked around a little bit for Northwestern, and people are, saying, oh, yeah, what about, Creighton? And it's not just that I like him at EMU. I do. But you understand what you're at EMU. If you have success at the MAC, you move up to, a Power 5 from the group of 5. It's kind of the natural progression. But I just don't. I would be surprised, bordering on being shocked, if Creighton was hired by Michigan State. So there are my thoughts. I've got a couple minutes. Let's take some feedback. Michael, looking up the numbers for Colorado, Nebraska. Yeah, they only had 58 yards, but he said, but they had 396 passing yards. Those are good stats if true. And Michael, I have no reason to believe that your stats and your work is not true. It sounds good for me. GC will give Nebraska some flowers for stopping the Minnesota rushing attack. AJ says we're going to put Ohio State in the stroller, just like Penn State. I'm just going to push them around. Northwestern beats Minnesota. Okay, count 22. There's your best point about Nebraska not being better than they were last year. There's good point. What am I going to say? Not much. Michigan's run game didn't excel versus anyone. They could play great, but it's still on the come. Yeah. Let's see. Michigan State. Yeah. Putting PJ Fleck's name up there after he loses to Nebraska. Michigan State fans. That might be the I haven't looked at all the feedback. It's like, if you are going to hire a head coach, having just immediate success the year before really helps sell to the fan base. And then others are going to look at it, PJ Fleck, his star has fallen a little bit. I still think he's a good coach, but Michigan State will get laughed at if they hire a coach that couldn't beat Northwestern with everything that's going on there. Great point. I'm going to go ahead and put a line now. I feel like maybe I'm his agent wearing a PJ Fleck wearing Gopher colors. Maybe I should put a line through PJ Fleck. I do think he's a good coach. Heck, I picked Minnesota to win the Big Ten West. Maybe all of that factors in to that. GC says we're imposing red zone rushes and third and shorts better than last year. The wedge play is brutal. Thomas, Michigan's O-line, not close to as good as last year, or the 21 Michigan D will need to carry them. I hear where you're at. The credentials for Thomas. He has been a Michigan fan since '69. He believes in what he's saying. I like when people are, that. So Thomas is saying, look, I'm not just coming on here to troll. I'm giving you my thoughts. I like that. We don't have to agree. Right? Little wink. Andy making the case that Michigan's third wide receiver is Donovan Edwards. Yeah, there you go. Michigan's third best wide receiver is their running back and tight end. Their third best wide receiver is their tight end. Their fourth best wide receiver is their running back. And then they've got a lot of guys. The three freshmen out of Samaj Morgan, Frederick Moore, and Carmelo English. And I'll put Darius Walker, there's 4, who's been banged up. I did see him late on the field late. And then Tyler Morris, Timo, as he's called. That's 5. 1 or 2 of those guys are going to be outstanding. So, like this. And, yeah, the wide receiver part is not what I'm worried about. And on the offense, about the offensive line, if Michigan was having problems throwing the ball and running the ball, I think it's scheme and what the other teams, they go in and they say, we have to commit to stopping the run. We have to have extra guys at the line of scrimmage, and we have to take our chances with the passing game. And Michigan has been showing them what's up with the passing game. I think the running game will be there. I think being able to play both sides of that with the look that you get. Like I said, I was encouraged from seeing Sharon Moore at the controls and the play calls that he made this last week. I'm encouraged about the run game, the passing game, the offense overall because of the play callers and the talent that they have and what I've seen from them thus far this year. I'm encouraged. That's good. That's it. Crying Ryan, Day, this is it. I agree that Michigan is living rent-free in Day's head. All Ohio State fans, I think that is true. It has been said, and I'm here to back it up. Haskins never took a tackle for loss and nearly 100% on 3rd and short. That's physical. Yeah, these are all good points. Andres liked the soundbite. Mark said it was unlistenable. Yeah, that's it. Bringing some third base up here. There's no crying in baseball, but apparently there is in football after the game. Mark says that Rich Eisen on the Notre Dame OSU game said, could they both lose? Kind of feels like that did happen. It's a good way to put it, Mark. Good job by Eisen. Guess who's going to hang 50 on Crying Ryan and the boys? Always the underdog. OSU against the world, getting laughed at. Yeah, let's see with Kenneth. It's good to see Kenneth. Come on, Wolverines, beat him again. Trying to rally the state. Lose again, and you're going to be on your own. Yeah, well, Sam Hartman had all day to play, or all day to throw. AJ, says I need to listen to him. It's a good reminder. How about John? He doesn't know if he's more or less confident. I'd be more confident if our O-line was playing as well as Notre Dame's. Yeah, I don't know. I feel pretty good. Again, I think Michigan's O-line is going to be okay. I'm not down on Michigan's O-line. I don't know, Michigan, if we take them for the last 2 years, now they want to do better this year. Not only do they want to beat Ohio State and win the Big Ten, they want to win the national championship. And across the country, Georgia and Florida State and Alabama and Ohio State, These teams all look beatable. None of them look like a juggernaut where you're just like, oh my God, how is anybody going to stay with these teams? And that's Michigan included. That's good news that there isn't a team that's emerged like that. You look at Georgia and say, oh my God, like Georgia, the dogs have just reloaded and they're killing everybody. Not the case. So that's good news. And just like, talking about Michigan's better than they were last year, maybe they were. Maybe they are. But if we're making the case, so what, that Michigan took Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn and smashed them the way they did, and Michigan, showed, they had a bad game against BG, and that's the reason? Would I have rather, I'll ask everyone this, that's down a little bit on Michigan's offensive line, or they don't look like, they think that the last 2 years Michigan was better. Would you have rather had Michigan house BG 50-0 and, beat East Carolina 30-3 and whatever they won UNLV game by 35-7? Would you have rather have had that and then had a one-score game last week against Rutgers? Let's say it would have been, 31-28, 31-25. Would you have rather have seen that? As the last 2 years, that's what happened with their Big Ten openers. I think, you take it all. I'm not always just like, I'm a glass half full guy by nature. I think other people are just always like thinking, like they're always that the shoe's going to drop, or like, I'm not feeling that way. I feel pretty encouraged about Michigan. No, I did not like the Bowling Green game and the turnovers. It's a reminder that if you turn the ball over, you can end up looking terrible. He wishes a reporter would ask Ryan Day some good troll questions. Yeah. Well, the one thing, and this gets back to the super fan, like this isn't like, and maybe you would like it. Maybe like, somebody that works for Howard Stern would go down there and start asking Ryan Day if, what kind of baby formula he likes for himself or something, those things are funny to the fan base, but they're, you try to be, professional. I appreciate professionalism when it comes down to that. While, give everybody a lot of laughs and everything. Maybe that's the way it should be. So, let a bunch of people in there troll the head coaches. There you go. Somebody talking about the punters. I didn't see the punters. Where's he at? I always like what the punters is saying. Here's Kent. Notre Dame could lose a bunch more games. Sure they could. Here's the punters. He thinks Nebraska is worse than Rutgers. Well, as been pointed out, that I wasn't thinking about myself, that Minnesota lost to Northwestern. I mean, what are we? That's a pretty brutal, pretty bad. What's going on? GC's excited to see Michigan come on and play on the road. I'm there. Will Cade quit on his team? Wow. Ohio State has made its way into the Nebraska preview. Jeesh. Is this a Buckeye fan? Yeah, look, Michigan's going to kill Nebraska, and we're still, getting over. We're still having a good time with this one. This one.
I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now. Our team, what he said about our team, I cannot believe. This is a tough team right here.
That's why. See, I think every day.
It'll continue to be Ohio against the world.
What? Your coach, spilled his guts for you out there, GOC.
This is a tough team right here. We're proud to be from Ohio, and it's always been Ohio against the world. And it'll continue to be Ohio against the world.
Hey. I try to be professional about everything, but when when your coach comes up with something like that, I'll be cutting this down. What's the What's the best part of this one?
I can understand why he did. He doesn't want to talk about Michigan.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about Michigan, GOC.
Like, I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
That's a good one.
What he said about our team, I cannot believe.
I can't believe it.
Team right here. We're proud to be from Ohio, and it's always been Ohio against the world, and it'll continue to be Ohio against the world.
Okay. Come on, GOC. We get some more from you. Oh, yeah, here he is. There he is. We'll give you some.
I can understand why he did. He doesn't want to talk about Michigan.
GOC, your Michigan is in your head. Michigan is in your head. You're watching a Michigan show. This isn't the Scarlet and Gray tune-up. This isn't the Scarlet and Gray massage parlor that you're watching here. Oh, McCord really came alive on the last drive. But I really liked how we utilized Marvin Harrison Jr. against the Irish. That feels pretty good. I really like the emotion that Coach Day had on the field after the game. Really, how like Coach Day took it to Lou Holtz. Come on now. That was pretty embarrassing. Your coach is an embarrassment. And hey, I just want you to remember this, GOC. Where are you at? You probably already have crawled back to the cave that you came from. And under the rock that you brought in, let's just see if we got any more from GOC. I'll just tell you, GOC, that once you lose the game this year, you'll turn on him too. You'll be turning on him. There's just no way, and you guys just won't be able to handle it. Doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. People throwing around some names. OT says a lot of coaches want the MSU job. They'll spend some money. Yeah, people will take, they're ready. A lot of coaches thinking, sign me up for the $80 million. I'm ready. Travis, is Edwards almost a lock to return next year based on production through 3 games? No, absolutely not. I mean, so if he decided like today to, which would be really strange, to declare for the NFL draft, he came out and said, look, I'm protecting my interests and I want to declare for the NFL draft. It'd be very strange. But he it would depend what he ran at the 40. He would still get drafted, I think, after what he's done for 3 games. So, but probably not as high as he wants to be drafted. So, I still look, I'm not down. Am I down on him running the football that, whether he's been tentative, he's making some moves, not hitting the hole. Michigan, last year, he made an effort to run between the tackles and pick up short yardage. I saw that if you go back and watch the tape from last year, the majority of the non-conference carries that Donovan Edwards had last year were short yardage in between the tackles, and he wanted to show tough running. And I think that because he's like a wide receiver playing running back, it was like he wanted to show Michigan and show everyone that he could do that he could carry the mail there. And he's gotten off to this slow start. He's been close on a couple to breaking them. And heck, if he broke 1 or 2 of them, he hasn't, to be talking about him, going out there and look, I thought he was the second best running back in the country. I don't think that right now. He's the production from that part. But is there something mentally there? I can't say that. Physically coming back where he's not trusting his knee that he had cleaned up. Remember that in the offseason? That could be a possibility. So there's some speculation by me. And then just not being able to get it together mentally and physically, and then not doing anything at all. Sorry, hitting wise, that you have to ramp up in football, also something combination of all those things. He is a weapon. He made the biggest play after Sandra Still's 71-yard interception last week when he, on that 3rd and 2 on the second series, came out and McCarthy hit him and he went for 33 yards. He's a weapon. Donovan Edwards is still one of the best weapons in all of college football. So, yes, you would like to have everything firing. You like to have everything firing. Obviously, getting it all firing for November where you win championships and then into December, January, of course. I get the worry, though. I get what you're saying. But no, I don't think about him going pro right now. But I get what you're saying. Like, hey, well, maybe he'll come back to Michigan now and it'll be great. OT, liking the Kansas coach, thinking about it. Gaddis, there's a nice one. Gaddis would be nice. Gaddis, Michigan fans would love that. Nobody's really, no Michigan fans are really high on Gaddis right now. Plus, Gaddis went to Miami, and then when he left Miami, now Miami is taking off. Nobody's bringing in Josh Gaddis as their head coach right now. Nothing is wrong with the run game, according to BK. Teams are overloading the box. That's why JJ's leading country in passing percentage. I think that's a good point. Why didn't Notre Dame pass more with Hartman? I don't know. Notre Dame was in a good spot. They needed to pick up some of those, that 4th and short. And then, you need to have the right amount of players out on defense. You need to make a stop late. I mean, it was there for the taking. It was there for the taking, and they didn't take it. That's it. All right. We'll take the last 5 feedbacks here, and we'll look forward to seeing you come up on Friday. We start out with Doug, who says the numbers are practically the same through 4 games last year. It's a good point. I think I'm with you on that. Mark says JJ's quarterback footwork, wide receivers, no drops, D tackles, a huge plus over last year. Nebraska's run game will show where the inside D line stacks up. That's a good one. AOKO is saying that there's only so many possessions with the new time rules. Just be happy Michigan has a lot of weapons to utilize and can't feed everyone at the same time. Boy, these last, I said I was taking 5. Those 3, I don't know how you could stop it. Mr. Johnson is not worried. As long as Michigan is scoring on their possessions, I don't care who gets the ball. And there it is. Thanks so much for joining us. Smash that like button. Leave reviews, comments. I'll say it. I enjoy the 5-star reviews. If you're one of those that click that 5-star, I'll give you a little click right here. Take care. Talk to you on Friday at 2 o'clock. A Michigan Football Friday.